Hello, and thank you again for joining us. We at Mars International are proud to present the next topic in our video series, Benefits of Manufacturing Partnerships. In this video, we will discuss how you can save both time and money by keeping all of your design and production needs under the same roof. Our presenter today will be Brian Engelstein. He is the product manager for our proprietary IoT device Cicada, and his wealth of manufacturing knowledge has been instrumental in bringing new products to market over the years. Thank you again for joining us, and please be sure to subscribe to our channel for future video releases. Without further delay, I will pass it over to Brian.
Thanks, Jason. As he said, I am Brian Engelstein. I am the product manager for Cicada, and welcome to the benefits of manufacturing partnerships, or how to save time and money by keeping everything under the same roof. Now, in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about manufacturing partnerships. I will explain what that is. But in order to describe how they can save you money, we also need to talk about the opposite, which I am calling independent development. So today, we will be talking about what is independent development, what is a manufacturing partnership, some of the pros and cons of each, and why I believe manufacturing partnerships are the way to go. And we're going to go over a couple of examples. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and one of our qualified people will answer you because we are watching, or put it in the comments and we will get to it as soon as we can. So to begin with, let's talk about independent development. Independent development is, let's say you're working on a project and maybe you don't know much about engineering, design, or manufacturing, or maybe you only have a specific skill set. Say you're a software engineer or you work in supply chain, so you understand that piece, but in order to make a product, you need all of the skills, which you don't have. And if you do have all of those skills, you should leave a comment and talk to us because I have a job offer for you. But if you don't, a very common way to do it would be to hire independent firms for each aspect of development. That is independent development. You go to a software design company and ask them to do the software. You go to an engineering firm and have them do your engineering documents. You go to a factory in China, say, and have them manufacture it based on the drawings you've given. And this will work, but it requires you to fill the role of putting everything together and making sure it really comes together, fixing all of the questions. It's like building a house yourself. It's really good if you totally understand every aspect, but you will spend most of your time and resources controlling what gets made and not as much on other features. Alternatively, if you don't want to do independent development, you can sign up with a manufacturing partner like Mars. And in the case of a manufacturing partnership, you work with them and they will handle all of the elements. They'll deal with the hardware design, they'll deal with the software, they'll deal with quality, they'll deal with logistics. And that's like hiring a general contractor on your house. They will figure it out for you, and you can spend your time on marketing or fundraising or anything else you need to do. It's a little bit less efficient than just going out and finding all the people yourself, but it saves a lot of time and effort in the long run, as well as improving some of the other features, which we'll get to later. So on the discussion of partnership, I have defined it by 5 metrics of partnership. These are, broadly speaking, ways that you can measure how effective your design and manufacturing process is. So my 5 are cost, in both money and time, reliability, or how likely is it that they will get the project done in the time and budget that they said they would, and if there is any concerns, how likely are they to potentially cause you headaches. Flexibility, which is if something goes wrong or you need to change something during the process of design or manufacture, how easy is it for them to make those changes, because those can cause big time and money expenses down the road. Integration, which is the ability for all the different pieces, your software, your hardware, your manufacturing, to all come together and work as a single unit, because that's necessary for an actual product to end up in people's hands. How likely and easy is that to happen between the two different styles of manufacturing? And finally, quality, which is if something goes wrong in the field, how easy is it to get that addressed and get that fixed? So we're going to open with cost, because this is America and we always open with cost. So cost, as I said, is the most straightforward of the five, and it's almost certainly the one you look at first when you're going to design a product. So cost is how much money does it cost to get a product in your hand to reach production. Also, I consider time part of the cost, both because time is money and because time to market is a very important part of your metrics when putting together a project like this. So let us begin with the cost for independent development. And as I mentioned before, this is where independent development shines for two reasons. One, because specialization reduces costs. If I have a company that only does software design, I am going to be better at software design than a company that does a little bit of everything. In addition, a manufacturing partnership, like a general contractor, is a middleman. And so going directly to the source will reduce costs. However, as we'll get into later, if you have delays and integration issues, that can increase costs, because an independent developer, you have to hire them on a retainer after completing the project. So anything that causes issues like that could potentially cause problems. And a manufacturing partnership could potentially give you a cost saving through purchasing multiple services through them, while an independent developer won't be able to offer that because they are specifically good at one thing. So on the flip side to that, a manufacturing partnership is more initially expensive because there are the middlemen and they give you a bulk price for everything instead of just a specific price for the software. But they have gains in other areas and theoretically will save you money if things go wrong in the future, which can be the main source of increased cost for independent partnerships. And as I said, everything that was true of independent developing as a downside is also true for manufacturing partnerships as an upside. So they can offer you discounts for multiple services and potentially give you time savings later on in terms of beginning the next phase of a project as soon as possible. You don't have to transfer files from your software team to your hardware team before they can begin testing, or make sure that each piece individually gets to your factory before you can begin manufacturing. The manufacturing partner will simply be able to collect all of those files and do it as soon as they can. So we're going to move on to reliability. As I said, reliability is how likely a company is to stay on schedule and budget, and if there is a risk of data theft or other concerns, because that I have run into that before. I've seen companies that will have issues with that, and it's a major problem if it happens. So independent development, as I said before, they are specialized and they tend to have more people doing specific jobs. If I run an independent software development company, I'm likely to have 10 software engineers working on staff or 20 software engineers working on staff. And a manufacturing partner, because they are more generic, may have 5 software engineers working at a time. So it can reduce your development times, and it can potentially improve their reliability because they are more specialized into the job. They have a better sense of how long things will take. However, you're only as fast and safe as your weakest link. I'm going to say that a few times, But if you're running 5 or 6 different independent developers, any one of them giving you a headache, delaying your schedule or something, will delay your entire project. Because if your software team is great, but your hardware team drops the ball and doesn't help you for 6 months because they decided there was another project that was more pressing, or they have some kind of issue, your software team, you're well behind schedule because one of your teams had an issue, even if the other 5 were fine. In addition, and this is a big problem, is if they decide to hold you hostage when you try to move. I have seen this before with some independent development groups, where if you try to take your drawings back or you try to get your source code, they don't let you get it. And then you have to go to another company and basically start from scratch because you don't have access to the resources that you paid for. And it's certainly a risk that I have seen time and time again because they have you over a barrel and there's nothing you can do. If you take anything away from this presentation, it's make sure you are very upfront with getting your source code and your original documents from people. Mars guarantees that you always have it if you would like it. Make sure you ask about that and make sure you get it. Save early, save often when it comes to your documentation, or you could find yourself later paying too much for an inferior product. Now, moving over to manufacturing partnerships, everything for this is under a single person. So even if in the abstract it may take additional time and they're slightly less specialized, so they may take longer to make it done, everything in a manufacturing partnership is done under a single project manager and a single point of contact. So it's a lot clearer for your scheduling what is actually happening, who is working, what problems they're running into. They will give you a real-time updating of the project. And because all of the different systems are under one roof, it's a lot easier if something goes wrong or if one of the groups is delayed, that the rest of the project doesn't cost you additional money because you need to keep other groups on retainer that are just sitting idle because one of your teams dropped the ball and is delayed. It also really helps to have a single company for crisis management. If there are issues with your drawings or you're looking to move, it's a single company. It's a lot clearer who has your resources, who has your drawings, and what they're doing with them. You don't have to deal with a bunch of different companies. It's always one. And as I said, Mars guarantees you all of your documentation. So if you ever do need to move, we would be sad about it, but we will give you everything that we've worked on with you. That's fully guaranteed every time. Moving on to the third one, that is flexibility. Flexibility is how easy is it to make changes once development has begun. Say you're designing a project that needs to check on temperature, and halfway through you realize you also wanted to check on humidity. How well can you change the software to allow that? Or say it doesn't actually fit in the space that you originally built it for. How easy is it to go to your hardware team and have that adjusted? In addition, let's say you're an inventor type and you have an idea for a product, but you're not the most technical person in the world, so you don't have the ability to draw up a full schematic. You just have an idea that you think is a good idea. I want X, make it do X. Maybe a nightlight for horses. So for independent development, this is one of their major stumbling blocks and one of the big advantages for manufacturing partnerships. Because when you hire 5 or 6 different teams to all do a specific piece of the project, they will work to a spec because they have to, because they don't see the big picture. So you need to tell them exactly what you want and exactly how they're supposed to do it. And you may have to hire an entirely separate team to create the instructions for your other teams, just to make sure that it's actually done in the format that the they can accept. So that can be a big problem because all of a sudden you're effectively paying someone to be a manufacturing partner without the benefits of a manufacturing partnership. On the other hand, manufacturing partnerships, all of the teams are in the same building. So if you ever need to change something or something isn't working or there's some issue, all of the teams can move together to make that change a reality. You don't need to have the hardware team change their spec and then once that's done, give that to the software team and to manufacturing and all of them to make sure that they also understand that the spec has changed. It's one person, you talk to your project manager, they work with their teams, they get it fixed, everybody's talking. In addition, because all of the teams are under the same roof, it's a lot easier to design without an initial full plan. Mars has a team that can help put together plans, and they're automatically done in a format that all of our teams understand. That is not a problem. We understand the software, we understand everything. So they can work without an initial specification, and we can get that built for you. In addition, if they do need something external, on occasion at Mars, we do require a system that we don't have internal resources for. And in that case, we know different companies that have done good work in the past that are able to fill in any gaps we may have to ensure that whatever you need done is done. My fourth system is integration. Integration is the ability to put everything together so it hums nicely. One thing about factories is that they are very literal. Working with a factory is a lot like working with a computer. It does exactly what you tell it to, always, always, always. So you need to make sure that your software works with the hardware that you built, works with the electrical wiring that you built. All of it plays nicely together because they're going to build it and they're going to do exactly what you tell them to do. So, as I said before, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Keep it in mind, and if something goes wrong, you need to be able to fix it. So for independent development, integration is totally on you. I mentioned here that you can stagger development. That means completely finishing your hardware before starting your software, which you can do and allows your software team to have a physical product to mess around with before they get to work, which is effective, but greatly delays your development time because you can't be working on software at the same time that you work on your hardware. You need to do it one by one by one, and that will slow you down a lot. In addition, you need to make sure that everybody is speaking the same language. You need to make sure that how you're saving your design files is the same way that your manufacturer can take them. And you need to make sure that if you have multiple software teams, say you have one for device firmware and you have another team for server architecture, you need to make sure that they are able to communicate, that they're working in the same format, that they're able to speak, especially since those teams may not know each other. And if there is a discrepancy, someone has to change things. And when everyone is working to a contract and a spec, those will cost you real money to fix because you need to amend your contract or start a new project. On the other hand, manufacturing partnerships will integrate everything. Literally, that is their job. That's what they do. They work with all of the separate teams, all of which are under them. They make sure they work together. Everything is saved in formats they can use. Everybody speaks the same language. Everybody understands how we do things, even up to the factories, because the factories are working with us on the same projects in the same formats. And if there is a problem, they'll fix it internally. You don't need to figure out which team to go to. Say, if it's not reporting correctly, is that a software issue or is that a sensor issue? You'll need to figure that out when it comes to integration and potentially extend your contract on both your hardware and software developers to figure that out. We'll talk about this more when I get to quality, but a manufacturing partner is able to simply fix that internally. And because all of the teams are on staff, there's no assigning blame necessary It's just in terms of get it done, get it fixed, get it improved. So as I said, the final of my 5 categories is quality. So quality, in this case, I'm referring to field quality. If there is a returned device, or if there is an update required, you want to improve your manufacturing. If you want to, God forbid, you need a full recall. How do you do this? So for independent development, it can be very, very tricky to properly do quality beyond simply replacing the product. Because if you need to go back to somebody and have them explain to you what went wrong, you can go to the factory and the factory will fix it in the case that it's a one-off and a defective part. But if there's, say, a hardware defect with the hardware, you'll have to recontract your hardware manufacturers in order to fix that. Or if there's a problem with your software, once the software is released, you're going to have to recontract the software team in order to get that fixed. And that can be a lot of issues. You may end up replacing more product than you fix because you simply don't want to take the time to work with an entire team again in order to create a patch for your product. Compare that to a manufacturing partnership who have a quality department to determine responses in these cases. In addition, Mars has a team that checks on quality at the factory on a regular basis to ensure issues are met and handled. And if there is any issue with the manufacturing process, that is something that can be very quickly adjusted. All the software teams are already on retainer because they're part of the manufacturing partnership team. So they can quickly go in, make the change that you need, and you don't need to come up with an entirely new contract in order to have that fixed. It's just right there. So in summary, I know it's a little hard on independent development, but there are definitely reasons to go that route if that's something you're interested in. If you know exactly what you want, independent development is better. In addition, if you are already one of the types of designers, say you're a software development team and you need hardware manufacturing done, that might make sense to go to a specific hardware team, get it done. If you already have the drawings, it might make more sense to go with them because they probably will do it faster and cheaper than a manufacturing partnership will. But if you don't have a ton of experience with this world, maybe you only have an idea, or you just don't want to think about it, because when you're doing independent development, you need to fill that manager, product management role. Then I would highly recommend you talk to a manufacturing partnership group, because they will be able to integrate all of the different requirements for your product. They'll be able to handle quality and manufacturing, and you simply don't need to think about it. They'll do it, they'll get it done on time and on budget and on schedule, and you can focus on getting it to the customers that want it. So I'm going to go over a couple of examples now just to show you some of the advantages to manufacturing partnerships and things we've been able to do. So one company that we worked with had a radio and a power supply designed by different firms. And we were contracted to create a web service capable of communicating to mobile devices about it. And so they were not able to speak with each other. We needed to design an entire third program simply to interface two devices on the same box into one internet readable service. So if we, as a manufacturing partner, had designed both, it would have saved a lot of time and headache for the company that hired us, because we would have put both in the same language, and we would have ensured that that language was capable of speaking to our online presence, so it wouldn't have required all of the hours of design work we had to put into it to ensure that it could speak. So that definitely hurt them in the long run. My second example was we were working on a mechanical product that had a design issue. And because we are a manufacturing partnership, we were able to make the mechanical change, check the software design changes, work with the factory, to ensure that it got pushed into production as soon as possible. We had our quality teams check to make sure the new products did not have that design issue, and we were able to very quickly and without assigning blame get the design fixed, get the product fixed, and get it back into the customer's hand as soon as possible. If each of those pieces had been independent, you would have had to rehire your design house. You would have had to make sure you go through that, hire an independent quality auditor to ensure that it was working, pass it to the factory, hire a different company in order to go to the factory and make sure your first articles looked good, pass those on, and then finally you would be able to get that into production. And that would have been a total of probably 6 months and thousands more dollars worth of work to get it done, simply because we had everything in the same roof and we were able to quickly approach everybody. So this is it. I hope you learned something about manufacturing partnerships versus going out, and what we can do for you and why first impressions can be a little deceiving. We hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me below, sales@marsinc.com, or you can leave a comment and we will get back to you as soon as we can. As you've learned, communication is one of our strong suits, so we are always happy to help. So thank you for your time and have a nice day.